Hi guys, today we are going to be reading William Shakespeare, and this is going to be the last part in our whole season. So let's go ahead and get into it right now. So chapter 7, the final curtain. Last scene of all, that ends this strange eventful history, is second childness and mere oblivion. Sans, without teeth. Sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. Okay, so sans means without, I think. So without teeth, without eyes, without taste, without everything. What? Okay, that's very interesting. On June 29th, 1613, the King's men were performing Henry VII. Wow, that's supposed to be 8. Henry VIII at the Globe Theatre. In Act 1, which is I, Scene IV, which is 4, of the play, the actor playing the king enters. That night, the king's men decided to dramatize this entrance by sounding a drum and trumpet and firing a small cannon. This turned out to be an unfortunate decision. The theater's thatched roof caught on fire, and in the span of 1 hour, the globe burned to the ground. Man, why would they do that? Just to make it dramatic? What type of a dramatic event is that? Shakespeare's plays were very popular, so the Globe had a full house, 3,000 playgoers at the performance that night. No one was seriously hurt, but stories about the fire circulated for months. Many people proudly proclaimed that they had been attending the play when the famous theater burned. Proudly? So they were proud? Okay, that's silly. The loss of the theater and its contents, including costumes, set designs, and play scripts, must have been devastating to the King's men. The end of the Globe signaled the end of Shakespeare's active life in the theater. At age 49, Shakespeare was ready to retire, and in October 1613, he returned to his house in Stratford-upon-Avon. My God. He made occasional trips to London to take care of business, but for the most part, Shakespeare spent the last years of his life at New Place. Little is known about Shakespeare's life during his retirement years. His peaceful life was disrupted, however, when his daughter Judith decided to accept the marriage proposal of Thomas Quinney in 1616. Oh, wow. Hey, it's 1616. It's two of the same numbers. Wow. Thomas was the son of Richard Quinney, a longtime neighbor and friend of the Shakespeare family. Like his father, Thomas was a tavern keeper. When it was time for him to be married, he chose Judith Shakespeare as his bride. The marriage license for Thomas and Judith was hastily procured, as had been the case with Judith's parents. However, unlike her mother, Judith was not pregnant. There was a different cause for the hasty marriage. Thomas Quinney had an affair with another woman while he was courting Judith, and this woman had given birth to a child. Thomas knew this information was about to be made public and that Judith would not marry him if she discovered the truth. Quinney obtained a license to marry Judith on February 10th, 1616, before she found out the real state of affairs. Oh, wait, by the way, this is a picture of, the caption says, Shakespeare eventually moved back to Stratford-upon-Avon. Sorry. Stratford-upon-Avon, and lived in his house, New Place, as illustrated in this engraving. Two months later, the story about Thomas's former mistress became known, causing grave embarrassment to the family and to the well-known William Shakespeare in particular. Most people considered Thomas Quinney to be a rogue and a scoundrel. He had entered marriage under false pretenses. In addition, he had been accused of drunkenness and of cursing his patrons on several occasions. In January 1616, Shakespeare summoned lawyer Francis Collis to draw up the first draft of his last will and testament. A second version was drafted in March. The will lists the properties and money to be divided between Shakespeare's two daughters. Through the will, Shakespeare wanted to safeguard Judith's interests and make her as independent as possible from a husband he did not trust. According to the terms of the will, Judith was to receive £100 plus another £50 if she gave up her claim to Chapel Lane Cottage. She would receive an additional £150 after 3 years if she or any other children she might have were still living. As long as she remained married, however, she would be paid only a small part of the money each year. Shakespeare's will stated specifically that Queenie was not to touch any of this money. Shakespeare's other daughter, Susanna, was to receive Shakespeare's personal property, which included New Place, 3 additional houses, and some land. Susanna was to inherit Shakespeare's investments outside Stratford-upon-Avon, including his shares in the Globe and Blackfriars theaters, and his property in the Blackfriars section of London. He willed all his clothes and £20 to his sister Joan, and willed that she be permitted to live the rest of her days in the Henley Street house. To his wife, Anna, he bequeathed his bed, not his best bed, but his second best bed. What does that mean? Shakespeare's wife, by law. That's her name? By law? Shakespeare's wife, by law, should have received 1/3 of her husband's estate. It is not possible to know what Shakespeare's intent was. It may have been a cold, callous bequest, or it may have been a loving one. The second best bed was probably being a loved one. The second best bed was probably the marriage bed, the best bed being reserved for the many guests who stayed at New Place. But no one knows for sure. Shakespeare left his sword to Thomas Combe, the nephew and heir of his friend John Combe, who had perished 2 years earlier. Shakespeare left the poor of Stratford £10, a large sum of money in those days. He named several close friends in his will, among them John Hemmage, Richard Burbage, and Henry Condell. He declared that 26 shillings and 8 pence were to be given to each of the 3 men to buy memorial rings. On April 23rd, 1616, after a sudden fever, William Shakespeare perished on what is thought to have been his 52nd birthday. The exact nature of his illness is unknown. Man, everything is unknown about this guy. But it is recorded that he had been in bad health for a few weeks. John Ward, the vicar of Stratford-upon-Avon, wrote in his diary that Shakespeare perished after a visit with friends. Shakespeare, Drayton, and Ben Jonson, a famous writer of the air, had a merry meeting, and it seems drank too hard, for it seems Shakespeare died of a fever he contracted. 2 days later, Shakespeare was buried in the Holy Trinity Church It is said that his grave was dug 17 feet deep to ensure that no one would dig up the popular playwright's bones. My God, that's super deep. Shakespeare had an elaborate funeral and was buried in the church proper rather than in the churchyard. Here's a picture of the epitaph on Shakespeare's gravestone, which reads, "Good friends, for Jesus' sake forbear to dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be man spares the stones, and cursed be he who moves my bones." As a momentum in his honor, a bust of Shakespeare stands in in Holy Trinity Church. Scholars consider the bust one of only two authentic likenesses of Shakespeare. No blood descendants of Shakespeare lived beyond the 17th century. His daughter Susanna gave birth to 3 children, all of whom died without offspring. Judith also had 3 children who perished young, the last two in 1639. This is a picture of the bust of Shakespeare, which stands in the Holy Trinity Church in Stratford-upon-Avon. It is considered one of only two authentic representations of Shakespeare. Shakespeare's bloodline died out with the death of the last of his grandchildren in 1674. No original manuscripts of Shakespeare's plays exist. Modern versions of based on early published texts called quartos, and folios. A quarto is a small volume containing a single Shakespeare play. A folio contains a collection of his plays. In 1623, 7 years after Shakespeare perished, and the same year that Anne Shakespeare perished, the first folio was printed. The folio, which contained 36 of Shakespeare's plays, was a tremendous undertaking. The work was a genuine where I lost where I was. A genuine tribute of affection on the part of Isaac Jaggard, a printer, and Edward Blount, a bookseller. Shakespeare's fellow actors John Hemmage and Henry Condell edited the collection. The plays are arranged by genre: histories, comedies, and tragedies. The most impressive tribute in the folio is an ode written by Shakespeare's friend Ben Jonson. It is known for these famous lines: "He was not of an age, but for all time, and all the muses still were in their prime, while when like Apollo he came forth to warm our ears, or like Mercury to charm." Both of those words, Apollo and Mercury, are types of cars, by the way. Today, there's a car called a Mercury and a car called an Apollo. Nature herself was proud of his designs and enjoyed to wear the dressing of his lines, which were so richly spun and woven, so fit, as since she will vouchsafe and no other wit. The merry Greek tart Aristophanes, neat Terence, witty Terence, the Angry Bird, witty Platus, now not pleased, but antiquated and deserted lie, as they were not of nature's family. Yet must I not give nature at all. Thy art, my gentle Shakespeare, must enjoy a part, for though the poet's matter nature be, his art doth give the fashion, and that he who casts to write a living line must sweat and strike the second heat upon the muse's anvil, turn the same, and himself with it, that he thinks to frame, or for the laurel he may gain a scorn, for a good poet's made as well as born. And such wert thou. The tributes given to William Shakespeare have never been given to any other poet or playwright. In fact, the world has never stopped paying homage to William Shakespeare. Alright, we're done. So, we're going to show you a couple of pictures. Not really pictures, but a couple of charts. And these charts we will show you for a second. Go ahead and pause the video so you can actually read. Okay, so let's move on to the other page. You can go ahead and read this. It might take you a while, to be honest, but yeah. Go ahead and read that. If you want, you don't have to. Let's go ahead and look at the next page. The complete works of William Shakespeare. Oh, will be interesting to read. I'm like a teacher. I'm like literally giving out like assignments, homework assignments. Further reading, Chicago. Oh, these are places where you can read also about him. Very interesting indeed. It's kind of thundering outside. Index, that's fine. We already know. Other titles from Learner and A&E. Alright, about the offer. That is the last thing I'm reading. This was a short video, but let's go ahead and say our last words. That's a bit dramatic. Carol Dommermuff Costa has worked in the classroom as a teacher. Oh, and in publishing as an editor. She teaches creative writing for adults. Miss Dommermuff, for adults? I'm not an adult. Oh no. Miss Dommermuff Costa has also written Nikola Tesla, A Spark of Genius, Agatha Christie, Writer of Mystery, Emily Dickinson, Singular Poet, and Indira Gandhi, Daughter of India, and an upcoming biography of Woodrow Wilson. She lives in Mamaroneck, New York, with her 2 adult children. Wow. Alright. Guys, we conquered the book. Oh, wait. There's the back. Usually in Harry Potter books I read the back, but you can go ahead and pause to read this yourself. There's a picture back there, right there as well. So yeah, that's William Shakespeare for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Someone drew earrings onto his ear. He doesn't actually have earrings, just FYI. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Tell me if you really liked the series. I'll make another book. And I'm pretty sure the next video is going to be something about a board game. So let's go. Let's go and do that. And thank you guys for watching. Please like, please subscribe so we can get to 50 to make a live stream. Finally, be prepared for that. And please touch the bell so you know when upcoming videos come up. So yeah, have a good day and peace out. Bye.